Jonathan Wasserman, he NBA draft writer for Bleacher Report, kind enough to join us. We're getting ready for Wingspan Night tomorrow night. Jonathan, is that going to be the go-to expression tomorrow night?
Yeah, you can have a drink for every time you hear the word wingspan, and you're going to get drunk. You're going to hear it all the time, particularly with Mo Bamba. I mean, they should really cut it off after 3 wingspans, but that's pretty much the word you're going to hear a ton, particularly with guys like Bamba and Jaren Jackson, who's got the 7'5" wingspan, and I'll stop there.
All right. Trade rumors. Let's start there. What do you hear?
Trade rumors. Wow. I mean, everyone's trying to move down. I think that's going to be a problem because everybody wants to move down. I think guys think they can get the same guy at number 7 as they can at number 3.
Okay.
The Hawks at number 3 are going to be the first team looking to move down. I know the Mavericks are taking calls. The Knicks are going to want to try and move up, but they don't have anything to move up. There's going to be a lot of phone calls and conversation. Really tough to say what's actually going to go down, but the phones are going to be very busy.
What about Cleveland, and what is Cleveland's game plan, not knowing what LeBron's future is going to be?
Yeah, I think they're going to stick at number 8, and they're going to take the best player available. They need some young talent, and I don't know how confident they are that LeBron is coming back. And if he's not coming back, then they definitely need to stick and draft a young player that they can develop. And from what I hear, LeBron James his opinion has nothing to do with what they're going to do at number 8. I think they just they got to go with their gut, find the best player available, whether he could help now or whether he helps 2 or 3 years down the road.
Most polarizing player is who?
Trae Young, no doubt about it. I just got a text from a executive who now believes he's dropping out of the top 10. And this was a guy who led the country in scoring and assists. You know, no one's ever done that before. Some people think he is a Steph Curry light. Some people think he is a backup point guard like Tyus Jones. There's just, there's no consensus on who Trae Young is and what he's going to be.
But Jonathan, how is he dropping now? What has happened?
Well, I think a lot of guys are also rising, and naturally, as guys rise, somebody has to drop. And I think there are teams who they see him in person, they realize, man, he is small. He's not a great athlete. He had an unbelievable green light in college that he's not going to have at the NBA level. And if you don't think he's going to be a star caliber starting point guard in the NBA, then you don't take him top 10. You don't want to take the chances of grabbing a point guard and he ends up being your backup with a top 10 pick. And this is just a very strong field in general. And a lot of guys are interviewing very well, really high character, smart guys who I think are helping themselves during this pre-draft process. And in the meantime, somebody's got to fall, and a bunch of teams do have point guards. And I think, unfortunately, that means Trae Young slips maybe to the Clippers at 12 or 13.
I also look at this, and I think we overthink these drafts because we'll take potential over production any day. I can look at Marvin Bagley and say he did everything you wanted at Duke, where 21 a game, ACC Player of the Year. But Michael Porter Jr., who played 50 minutes in his college career, it feels like is more intriguing than Marvin Bagley or DeAndre Ayton, right?
Yeah, I mean, people want scores, and Porter is a scorer. Having said that, I also just got a message saying that Porter is on the decline. He's falling, and mainly because of his medical reports. And like you said, played 53 minutes this season, and nobody wants a guy with back trouble this early in his career. So Porter is obviously interesting because he's a 6'11" face-up scorer. Kind of reminds guys of Brandon Ingram and Kevin Durant, which those are mismatches we can feed the ball to in the half court and feature. But you also don't want to take a chance with the injury risk and also the fact that there are so many other solid options.
Least riskiest player is
Luka Doncic, who is ironically didn't even play in this country.
Yeah.
And Doncic is, listen, we've seen him. I know he's overseas, but he's the most proven player in this draft. We've already seen him at Eurobasket last year. He beat up on Porzingis and Lafayette. He beat up on Spain and the Gasol and Hernan Gomez brothers and Ricky Rubio. He was just the youngest player to ever win EuroLeague MVP. I mean, usually 18, 19-year-olds are praised if they get minutes in EuroLeague, and he was the best player in the league playing against former first-round picks and seasoned pros in Europe. There's no question. He's 6'8", he's 220, an excellent passer, excellent shooter, one of the top scorers in EuroLeague. There's just nothing to really question about him, and really, really competitive kid.
Talking to Jonathan Wasserman, Bleacher Report, their lead NBA draft writer. Who's the sneaky guy? Who's the guy who, when we look back, he might be Donovan Mitchell or Draymond Green, that kind of player?
in different tiers of the draft. We'll start at the top with Wendell Carter Jr., who played for Duke, and he was overshadowed by Bagley, who, had a lot more touches and was a 2010 guy. Carter didn't see the ball as much, but his game may be better suited for the NBA. Really strong around the basket, a much better shooter than he had the freedom to show at Duke. So I think he's got the chance to be a top 5 player in this draft. And then I think if you move down the board, Dante DiVincenzo from Villanova, who's the kid who dropped 31 in the national title game. You never really heard the word NBA tied to his name until that night. And he shows up at the Combine, was one of the best players on the floor during 5-on-5s. A really humble kid, one of the top athletes in the draft. Does a little bit of everything, passes, defends, shoots it well. I think DiVincenzo, particularly if he lands in a area where he could play to his strengths, he's going to be a very, very good, I wouldn't say Draymond Green type of player, but that type of do-it-all, jack-of-all-trades guy who's going to impact games without needing his number called. What
about Grayson Allen?
Yeah, Allen, another polarizing guy, and I think Allen has actually helped himself in interviews. Obviously, he had, the tripping incidents, and people question his maturity and his character. But, I truly believe, and I think others do too, he had some mental lapses, and I think he's gotten past them. And he does have NBA caliber skills. He's made over 83s in 3 consecutive seasons. Teams all need shot makers. Put him around the arc, let him run off screens, let him spot up. He's got a chance, again, to make an impact if he does land, on a good team where all he has to do is catch and shoot. I think he's got a chance to go possibly somewhere in the late 20s. I got him right now going to the Boston Celtics.
Player most likely to be the biggest bust out of this group is?
Okay, this is going to be a tough answer, but the number 1 pick in the draft, DeAndre Ayton. And I don't mean bust by he's going to be out of the league like Anthony Bennett in a couple of years, but when you're the number 1 pick in the draft, I think your expectation is to be an all-star every year and to change the culture and direction of your franchise. Ayton's going to go number 1, and I think he's going to wind up being a stats over wins type of guy, where the team continues to stink, yet he puts up big numbers, and the production doesn't really match the value. So I think looking back after a few years, the Suns may regret taking Ayton number 1.
But we also look at the new NBA, Jonathan, and it feels like why are, you're taking a big man number 1, and in today's NBA, does that make sense, taking a big man number 1?
Only if you think that guy is going to be one of the best players in the league in a couple of years. And one of the reasons why on my big board, Ayton is not number 1, he's actually number 3, is because if you're going to take a big guy, number 1, he better be good at defense. And Ayton's biggest weakness is his defense. If he's a guy who can't protect the rim at center, then that's a problem for me. And I guess the Phoenix Suns just love his offensive upside. He kind of reminds me of a DeMarcus Cousins, who's going to give you those big numbers, 20 and 10 every night. But Cousins, his teams have been better almost when he has been off the floor. And so I guess they see a very safe play with Ayton. He's 7'1", 250, 7'5" wingspan, powerful, athletic, skilled. But with the way the NBA is going with 5 guys around the perimeter, he doesn't quite fit the mold of a franchise number 1 pick.
Jonathan, thank you. Great stuff. Have fun tomorrow night. We appreciate your time.
Yep, thanks for having me, guys.
That's Jonathan Wasserman, Bleacher Report, their lead NBA draft writer.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.